When a young woman in high heels walked into the dusty village of Odu, the people stared. Who was this girl with red lipstick, long lashes, and tight jeans? Some called her a slay queen. Others called her lost. But none of them knew. She was the one the ancestors had been waiting for. Welcome to African Moonlight Tales, the home of real, heartfelt African folk tales brought to life. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you're the first to know whenever we share a new story. Also, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. The sun was hot that day when Zena stepped down from the rickety village bus. Her suitcase was small, her heels clicked loudly on the dry, cracked ground, and the wind caught the curls of her long brown wig. She wore sunglasses that covered half her face, gold hoops in her ears, and her lips were painted a bold red. She stood still for a moment, letting the dust settle around her. People stared. Children peeped from behind mango trees. Some giggled, others whispered. A few just stood with open mouths, unsure whether to be afraid or impressed. Old women sitting outside, their huts paused in their handwork. One woman muttered, "See her nails, like knives. Can she even hold a broom?" Another replied, "You know these city girls. Everything is show." She came to make noise and take pictures. A man leaning on a bicycle nearby chuckled. "She doesn't look like someone who can fetch water, let alone cook. And that perfume? She wants to fight mosquitoes with fashion." Zena ignored them all. Her lips curved into a soft, unreadable smile as she looked down the dirt road leading to her grandmother's house. Her steps were slow, careful. Her heels sank into the soft earth with every step, but she did not stop. She walked like she belonged. She had come to Odu for the first time in many years. The last time she had been here, she was only a child, clinging to her mother's wrapper. Now her mother was gone. So was her grandmother, Mama Koi, the village's healer, the midwife, the one everyone came to when things went wrong. They said Mama Koi had passed peacefully. But the letter Zena received from the village council did not feel peaceful. It felt urgent, strange. The house sat at the far edge of the village, near the old trees. Its walls were cracked, the roof a patchwork of thatch and tin. It smelled like dust, herbs, and something old, something sacred. Zena stood at the locked door and closed her eyes. She placed her hand gently on the wooden frame. It was warm under her palm, as though the house remembered her, as though it had been waiting. She sat on the small stone bench outside and stared at the land around her. Tall grasses moved with the wind. A crow called from the distance. Somewhere nearby, a goat bleated. Children passed by and stared. One brave girl waved. Zena waved back. She heard the whispers start again. In the market, near the stream, by the firewood piles. Mama Koi's granddaughter has returned. Yes, but she's a slay queen now. They say she's only here to sell the house. She looks proud, like someone who has no respect for elders. She wears heels in the village, can you imagine? But Zena did not respond. She never raised her voice or explained herself. She greeted people quietly, nodding when she had to, smiling when she felt it. Instead of going to the market or greeting the chiefs, she stayed near the house. Every morning, she woke before the sun and sat outside with a notebook, writing. She wrote, "My feet ache, but my spirit is calm. The earth here feels heavy, like it's hiding something. I wonder if my grandmother had secrets. I wonder if they're still here." The people did not understand her silence. To them, it looked like pride. In the evenings, when the drums echoed from far away, she did not join the dancing. She sat in front of the house and watched the moon. One afternoon, an elder came. Chief Okamfo. His back was bent from years of bowing to gods, his eyes dark like burnt charcoal. He stood in front of her and studied her face without greeting. "You don't belong here," he said. "You wear city things. You speak little. You don't bow. You didn't come to honor your grandmother. You came to take what is not yours." Zena stood slowly. She looked into his tired eyes and spoke gently. "I came to remember who I am. That's all." The elder frowned. "Your grandmother had fire in her. You? I see perfume and paint. Nothing more." She didn't answer. He turned to walk away, but paused and said, "The land is angry. The ancestors are restless. Something is coming. And you wear wigs and walk like a chicken in heels. What can you do when the spirits wake?" That night, She dreamed of water, a river flowing backward, a voice singing a lullaby in a language she did not know. She woke with sweat on her face and a word in her mouth. Ebel. She had no idea what it meant. Later that night, the wind came, stronger than usual. It howled through the trees, shaking the branches like rattles. Xena sat up in bed, listening. Then she heard it, soft, like a song, like a whisper just outside the wall. The blood remembers. She froze. Her skin tingled. She stood and opened a small wooden window. The moon was full, and the night air smelled of wildflowers. She looked into the dark and said aloud, "I don't understand." The wind stirred again, and this time, it carried the scent of her grandmother's herbs, bitter leaf and incense. She stepped back and sat on the floor, hugging her knees. For the first time since arriving, her eyes filled with tears. She didn't cry for the people or the whispers or the cracked house. She cried because something inside her had begun to shake. Something old, something wild, something true. And though she didn't know what it was, she felt it. Something had begun. She wasn't just here to bury the past. She was here to dig it up. The days grew strange in ODU. It began with the sky. Even when the sun was high, the clouds hung low, dark and heavy like a warning. The wind blew harder than before, but brought no rain. The heat stayed. The land was dry. The river that once danced behind the forest now moved slowly, like an old man with tired legs. Fishermen sat on empty canoes, staring at the shallow water with worried eyes. Their nets came up dry. Then the farms began to fail. Cassava roots rotted before they were ready. The yam leaves turned yellow. The corn withered in the sun. Chickens stopped laying eggs. Goats grew skinny. People started falling sick. At first, it was a few children with fever. Then the old men began to cough. One woman lost her voice. Another began to walk in her sleep. The village healer, now just an old apprentice since Mama Koi was gone, did not know what to do. No one said it out loud at first, but everyone felt it. Something was wrong with the land. The elders called for a meeting under the Irako tree. The village bell rang in the morning, and by afternoon, every adult gathered. Even the hunters came back from the forest early. Xena did not go. She sat outside her grandmother's house, as always, writing. But she could feel the tension in the air, like thunder waiting behind silence. Under the tree, Chief Okamfo stood and raised his staff. His voice was firm, though age had taken some of its strength. The river dies. The land is dry. People fall ill. Our dreams are not at peace. This is not by chance. The spirits are speaking, but we do not understand. Another elder, a tall woman with a deep voice, spoke. We must ask the ancestors. We must open the ground. We must return to the old ways. The people murmured in agreement. So they brought out the sacred stool, the one only used when things are truly bad. They placed white cloths around it, cola nuts, palm oil, a black hen. A young man named Ni, who had trained in divination, knelt beside it. His hands shook as he cast the stones and bones. Then he gasped. The crowd leaned in. A hush fell across the village. The ancestors have spoken, Ni said. The spirit of the land has returned, but it cannot rest. Why? Chief Okamfo asked. What must we do? Ni's eyes filled with fear. The sacred grove has been forgotten. It must be awakened again. One must enter. One must be chosen. Silence. Someone whispered, the grove is cursed. Another said, no one has entered it since Mama Koi died. She was the last who knew its secrets. Everyone turned to look at the forest beyond the village, dark, tall, and silent. Later that evening, Xena heard footsteps near her gate. She looked up and saw the children walking slowly by. A small girl with a missing front tooth stopped and stared. Then she spoke. My brother says the land is sick because we forgot the grove. Xena blinked. What grove? The girl pointed toward the forest. The one with the stones and the tree that bleeds red. They say no one can go there. But maybe you can. Xena raised an eyebrow. Why me? The girl shrugged. Because you're different. And your grandmother used to go there all the time. The girl ran off before Xena could ask more. That night, Xena didn't write. She sat on the floor of her grandmother's house, staring at the small table where old bottles of herbs still stood. She opened the drawers one by one. Most were empty, but one held something strange, a cloth pouch, tied with red string. Inside were dried leaves, a piece of chalk, and a folded letter. She unfolded it slowly. The paper smelled of smoke and time. "My Xena," it began. "If you're reading this, I'm already dust. But you are not. You are bone and blood and power. I know they will call you names. They will not understand you. That's fine. The one chosen never fits in." Xena's hands trembled. "In our line, the spirit does not skip. It waits. You carry it now, but must be woken. When the land begins to bleed, go to the grove. The path will call you." Xena read it twice. Then she folded it again and pressed it to her chest. She could no longer sleep. The next morning, she left the house early and walked through the village barefoot. Her heels were gone. Her wig was gone. Her face bare, her eyes steady. People watched her pass, confused. "Is she sick?" someone asked. "She looks like a village girl now," said another. "She's going mad," a man muttered. "The spirits have touched her." Xena walked past them all without a word. She reached the edge of the village, where the red earth met the green forest. The trees rose like giants, their arms stretched across the sky. A narrow path led into the darkness. Xena hesitated. Then she heard the wind whisper again. "The blood remembers." She stepped forward. The forest swallowed her. The forest was quiet. Not silent. There were sounds. Birds calling, leaves rustling, twigs snapping under her feet. But the deeper Xena walked, the more it felt like the forest was listening to her, not the other way around. Each step felt heavy, like the earth was pulling at her ankles, testing her. The air smelled different here, richer, older, full of secrets. Sunlight barely reached the ground. The trees were too thick. Their branches twisted into shapes that looked like hands reaching for something just out of sight. Xena walked slowly, her grandmother's letter tucked into her cloth bag. She didn't know where she was going, but her feet seemed to move on their own. The forest was guiding her. After what felt like hours, she saw it. A clearing. In the middle stood a strange tree. Tall, thin, with red sap oozing from its bark. The ground around it was covered in white stones arranged in a perfect circle. It was the grove. Xena froze at the edge of the circle. Her heart beat faster. She remembered the stories, how no one entered the grove unless they were chosen, how people who disrespected the land sometimes disappeared. She took a deep breath and stepped inside. Nothing happened at first. Then the wind rose. A sudden breeze circled her like a snake. The leaves rustled louder. The red sap on the tree bubbled and dripped onto the ground. Xena fell to her knees. A pain shot through her head. Visions flashed in her mind, images too fast to hold. A river glowing under moonlight. A woman's hands raised to the sky. Fire. A baby crying. A drum beating from somewhere far away. She clutched her chest, gasping. Then, everything went still. She was no longer alone. A voice spoke, not out loud, but inside her. Soft, firm, and familiar. "You are late." Xena's lips trembled. Who are you?" The voice did not answer. Instead, it showed her something. A memory not hers, but known to her. Mama Koi, young and strong, standing in this very grove. Singing, praying, bleeding. Xena cried out. The spirit was showing her the truth. She saw that her grandmother had once saved the village from sickness. She had entered the grove alone, given her blood to the earth, and the rain returned the next day. Xena saw the path of women before her, each one carrying the same spirit, the same gift. They did not choose it. It chose them. She saw her own mother, turning away from it in fear. She had run to the city, tried to escape it, and died young. "You cannot run," the voice said. "You are the last. If you turn away, the land will break." Xena sobbed. "I don't know what to do," she whispered. The voice was quiet, then said, "Then learn." Xena sat in the grove for 3 days. No food, no water, only the wind, the trees, and the dreams. On the second night, a leopard passed through the grove. It did not attack. It bowed its head and vanished. On the third day, the rain came. Not heavy, just soft drops, enough to touch her skin and sink into the dry earth. Xena opened her eyes. Her lips cracked, her body weak, but something inside her had changed. She stood and walked back. When she returned to the village, the people gasped. She had no wig, no paint. Her feet were dirty, her dress torn at the edges. But her face Her face was calm. Her eyes looked deeper, older, like someone who had seen things that words could not carry. Children followed her again, but this time they were quiet. Old women nodded. One whispered, "She looks like Mama Koi now." She went back to the old house and cleaned it. She swept every corner. She burned herbs in clay pots. She placed the white stones from the grove around the compound. Then she sat outside, waiting. The people began to come. First, a woman with a sick child. Then, a man whose dreams were dark. Then, a girl who had lost her voice. Xena didn't speak much. She simply listened. She touched their heads, mixed herbs, sang softly when needed. Some left healed, some left crying, but all came back. She had become her grandmother without even meaning to. The elders heard, and they were not pleased. "She is doing things without permission," one said. "She never asked to be the new healer," said another. "Just because she went into the forest doesn't mean she is ready." So they called for a council, a test. Xena knew it was coming. She looked into the mirror and saw her old self, the city girl with earrings and lip gloss, and smiled sadly. Then she lit a candle and whispered to the wind, "I'm ready." The elders called it a cleansing ritual, but to Xena, it felt like a trial. The council met beneath the great Irako tree again. The sacred drum was beaten 3 times, calling the entire village to witness. Smoke from burning herbs rose into the sky, and a white cloth was laid on the ground. On it sat a bowl of water, a stone, and a single kola nut. Xena stood at the center. Around her were the elders, each wearing red and white beads. Chief Okamfo held the staff of judgment. The people gathered in silence, curious, confused. Some hoped she would fail. Others feared what might happen if she passed. "You entered the sacred grove," Chief Okamfo began. "You walked the path of fire. But spirit must be tested by spirit. If you're truly called, the land will speak for you. If not, the land will reject you." Xena nodded. She had no fear left. The grove had already spoken to her. Her grandmother had visited her again in dreams. She felt the power moving under her skin like a second heartbeat. The first test was the bowl of water. "You must stir it without touching it," said the oldest woman, Nana Osei. Xena knelt. She closed her eyes and breathed in deep. She remembered what the voice in the forest told her. "Water listens. Speak, don't shout." So she sang, a small, low song, one her grandmother used to hum while crushing leaves in a mortar. The water moved, slowly, gently, like a baby turning in its sleep. Gasps echoed across the circle. The second test was the stone. "You must lift it with your shadow," another elder said. "No hand must touch it." Xena stood over it. The sun was behind her, casting her shadow long and dark across the stone. She bent her head and whispered, not to the stone, but to her own feet. Then she danced, not a wild dance, a slow, sacred rhythm. Her arms moved like river waves. Her feet tapped the ground like drumsticks. And the stone shook. It didn't rise, but it cracked, right down the middle. The elders murmured among themselves. One said, "We have never seen this." The final test was the kola nut. "You must throw it in the air," said Chief Okamfo. "If it lands whole, the spirits accept you. If it breaks, they do not." Xena took the nut in her hands. It was smooth, warm, and firm. She held it close to her lips. "Let the truth be seen," she whispered. She threw it. The nut rose into the sky, spinning like a leaf. Time seemed to slow. Every eye in the village followed its path. It landed, whole. No crack, no split. Only silence followed. Then the wind blew. Strong, sudden. It swept through the circle, knocking over calabashes, shaking leaves from the tree, and blowing dust into the air. The white cloth lifted and flew. People shouted and ducked. But Xena stood still, her eyes closed, her arms open. The wind circled her, and then it stopped. Just like that. All eyes turned to the elders. Chief Okamfo stepped forward. His voice was not proud. It was quiet, full of respect. "The land has chosen." He bowed. One by one, the elders followed. Some with joy, some with heavy hearts. But all bowed. Children clapped. Women cheered. A man beat a drum. But Xena did not smile. She turned to the forest and walked. That night, she returned to the grove. Alone, she brought offerings, water, herbs, ash, and salt. She poured them around the red tree and whispered thanks. Then she sat and waited. She did not sleep. She listened, and the grove answered. The animals came first. A hornbill landed on a branch above her. A tortoise crawled to her feet. A black cat walked in a circle, then vanished. Then came the ancestors, not in bodies, but in voice and wind. They spoke through the rustling of trees, through the crackle of fireflies, through the humming in her bones. They told her the truth. The land had been drying not just because of forgetting, but because of silence. When Mama Koi died, no one had stepped forward. No one had opened the gate. The sacred grove was closed, and the spirits, locked out, had begun to cry. Xena had reopened it, but the work was not finished. The land needed a new keeper, not just for the herbs and healing, but for the balance, for the peace between the living and the dead, between the village and the forest. You must not only speak for us, the voices said. You must remember us. You must teach them to remember. Tears rolled down Xena's cheeks. I will, she said. From that day, everything changed. She built a small hut near the grove, not far from the village. She wore simple clothes, sometimes wrappers, sometimes none. Her face stayed bare, but her eyes glowed in a way no makeup could match. People came from far villages to see her. She healed the sick. She named newborns. She led prayers when the moon was full. But more than anything, she taught. She taught the children the names of trees, the songs of rain, the stories of those who lived long ago. And she laughed. She laughed like thunder, like joy that had waited years to come home. The elders watched. Some were humbled. Others stayed quiet. But all respected her now. One evening, Chief Okamfo came to her hut. He brought a calabash of palm wine and placed it at her feet. I was wrong about you, he said. Xena smiled. I was wrong about me, too. They drank. They talked. And when the stars came out, he said something that surprised her. You are not like your grandmother. Xena raised a brow. No, he said. You carry her gift, but you wear it in your own way. Xena looked up at the stars. Maybe that's the point. And somewhere deep in the grove, the wind agreed. The season turned. The wind changed. The rain returned. The river flowed again, full and clear, and the fish returned in numbers the villagers hadn't seen in years. The soil softened, the yams grew fat, the cassava strong, and green life spread across the land like a blessing. People said it was because of the grove, but those who knew better said it was because of her. Xena no longer wore heels. Her feet were hardened from walking barefoot. Her palms were no longer soft. They had calluses now, from grinding herbs and making medicine. She no longer looked like the slay queen they had mocked, but she had never looked more powerful. Children followed her like chicks behind a mother hen. Elders sent for her when their dreams turned dark. Even the animals seemed to pause when she passed. Still, not everyone accepted her. There were whispers. She is too young. She did not train the old way. She uses strange methods, chanting, walking at night, talking to trees. She doesn't kneel before elders like her grandmother did. One evening, the elders met again under the Irako tree. This time, they did not call her. Chief Okamfo was there, older now, his hands always shaking. Next to him sat Nana Osei and the others, all dressed in red and white cloth. They spoke in low voices, passing a carved calabash around. At last, the decision was made. The next day, they sent a messenger to Xena's hut. The boy came breathless. The council wants to see you. All of them. At the shrine. At sunset. Xena nodded. I know. How? The boy asked. She smiled. The trees told me. At sunset, she walked through the village. The path to the shrine was lined with people. Men, women, children, all silent, all watching. She wore no paint, no jewelry, just a white wrapper and beads across her shoulders. Her hair was tied with a single red string, her grandmother's old healing cord. At the shrine, the elders sat in a circle, back straight, eyes fixed. There was no stool for her. She stood in the center, alone. You were never named by us, said Nana Osei. You never trained with the priestesses, said another. You took your place without being given it, said a third. Xena said nothing. Chief Okamfo raised his hand. You heal the land. That is truth. But you also broke the order. And now, We must decide what place you truly have here. Xena stepped forward. Her voice was calm. I never asked for a title. I only listened when the land cried. I only answered when the spirits called. Nana Ose leaned forward. Do you believe you are greater than us? Xena's eyes softened. No, I believe I am different. That's all. The air was still. Xena took something from her cloth bag. It was her grandmother's old staff, the one that hadn't been seen since Mama Koi died. She placed it gently in the center of the circle. Then she turned and walked out. The elders watched her go. None of them spoke. But something happened then, something that would be remembered for generations. The staff, once cold and lifeless, began to glow. A thin mist rose from the ground around it. The earth trembled. A wind swept through the shrine, lifting red dust into the sky. And then, silence. Every elder stared at the staff. It stood upright without falling. The glow pulsed like a heartbeat. The oldest among them whispered, "The land has spoken." The staff belonged to her now. They had no choice but to accept. From that day, she was no longer called that Slay Queen. She was called the Keeper of the Grove, the voice of the wind, the one who listens. People came from other villages to learn from her. She taught them to listen to the land, to respect the old ways, to carry power quietly, and to never judge a person by what they wear, but by what they carry in their spirit. Years passed, and one day, an elder, young and proud, stood before his people and told this story. About a woman who came in red lipstick and high heels and changed everything. He ended with the words his grandmother once said. She looked like a slay queen, but what she did next left the elders speechless. And the whole village, sitting under the stars, nodded in silence. Because they remembered. Don't let the clothes fool you. Sometimes, the one who walks with the ancestors doesn't wear a robe, but heels. Thank you for watching this powerful story. If the story touched your heart or shocked you, please give it a like and share it with your friends and family. And don't forget to subscribe for more emotional and inspiring African folktales.